Rainbow Reflections, Book 2, Put Out the Fire. Chapter 4, Take a Tumble. Sarala was worried that the remaining month of summer would pass by as slowly as it did at Jabali's house. But after Zin complained of being bored over and over, Hyaktu settled on teaching the three teens martial arts, which definitely kept them busy. He even followed their own martial arts club schedule: Kung Fu on Moon Day and Tuesday, Tai Chi on Weta Day and Thursday, and combatives on Friday and Saturday. The kids were happy to progress with their own level of material again, but that wasn't the only thing they'd learn. Hyaktu incorporated other exercises into the classes, like holding a square stance back-to-back while passing a kicking shield to each other, or jumping from one crane stance to another. But they also had to do a lot of non-martial arts exercises to build their endurance. This included lunges, squats, sit-ups in which they passed a heavy rock to one another, and pleasant valleys. "What's a pleasant valley?" Sarala asked when Hyaktu mentioned it. Hyaktu grinned and ordered, "Sit down on the ground." Sarala sat down at once. "Move your legs like you're biking through a valley." Sarala did so, off balance without using her arms. "Now use your hands to pick cherries." Frowning, Sarala placed her arms in front of her and groped blindly in the air. "Now put the cherries in your backpack behind you," Hyaktu instructed. "In my backpack," Sarala scoffed. "Your pretend backpack. You gotta put them somewhere." Sarala then proceeded to throw the pretend cherries in the pretend backpack behind her, but Hyaktu was not pleased. "Don't throw them everywhere, you have to put them directly in your backpack, and keep your legs moving, otherwise you'll fall off your bike." Needless to say, the Pleasant Valleys were not pleasant in the slightest, but Zin continued to laugh at the name and would often request to do the exercise until it became known as the Zin Special, which would make Sarala groan each time. The teens also learned how to hold gear for one another, to practice for when they'd be using mitts and bags in their future club. The bagwork drills were much like the regular group classes, as the students had to put together combinations of self-defense techniques. One time, Zin had been holding a kicking shield for Sarala. She slammed her foot into the bag so hard that Zin was sent flying off the mat of the Kung Fu studio. "Are you okay?" Sarala called as they almost hit the wall. Zin appeared more confused than hurt, then they grinned. "That was fun! Do it again!" Sarala scowled in response when they'd rushed back to be sent flying away once more. The combatives seemed to be the teens' favorite classes, not only to engage in, but also to practice teaching one another. Just like during the school year, Hyaktu had them switching between kickboxing and grappling. But now that Zin and Ren were blue sashes, they were allowed to do weapon sparring with Sarala as well. They spent at least 30 minutes on each combative, if not more. Working on plenty of combinations in kickboxing, they struck directly to one another, something the students were much more accustomed to than bag holding. They only did a few combination drills before doing plenty of matches, some matches as offense-defense or working on specific details like speed. "You'll want to use more kicks in your kickboxing," Hyaktu continuously instructed them. "Use the power thrust, use the heel thrust, use any thrusting kick to shove them back." Sarala had been the only one to heed his words. She had the power thrust kick under her command, smashing her heel into Zin and Ren whenever they tried to come close. Zin wasn't entirely defenseless, though, and soon began waiting for Sarala to close the distance. Zin would then throw a front leg snap kick to intercept her approach before landing hand strikes. Ren, meanwhile, used a variety of kicks but hadn't settled on a particular one, more accustomed to throwing hand strikes instead. Grappling was certainly complex with the various arm bars, chokes, and positions. Ren was better than the other two when it came to ground fighting. She was able to understand the concepts and feel her opponent's bodies easily, whereas Sarala mostly relied on instinct until she landed in the perfect position to choke or armbar her partner. Zin, meanwhile, only seemed to rely on instinct, not grasping the concepts. Zin fared better in weapon sparring, though. They were quicker than Ren or Sarala, and the 1-minute matches relied mostly on speed for success. "Are we ever going to weapon spar with something other than sticks?" Ren asked curiously after one class. "At the higher levels," Hyaktu replied. "You start off with stick fighting one another, then we bring in other weapons. After all, there's a 2-person staff form at the brown sash level, and there are plenty of 2-person weapon forms after you get your black. We even have an umbrella versus bench form." "You get to hurl a bench around?" Zin asked in awe. "Not anytime soon, thank the spirits," Hyaktu added in an undertone. While the teens were making good progress with their kung fu and combative classes, Tai Chi was another matter. Hyaktu had been teaching Sarala kung fu while Khurshid taught the twins, but the teachers switched students when it came to Tai Chi. After all, Sarala had no knowledge of Tai Chi and seemed reluctant to learn the slow art. Hyaktu therefore spent the Tai Chi class focused on the twins, trying to correct their postures and empty full footwork as they began the sword form. By the time September finally rolled around, the three teens had learned most of their current level material and were confident they'd be able to teach for the martial arts club. The trio was currently putting their weapon sparring gear away, finished with another day of hard work. Hyaktu nodded in approval as they wiped down the gear. "Make sure you stretch after," he said. Zin sighed, collapsing to the orange mat in a butterfly pose. "Why do we always have to stretch after class? I just want to drink as much water as possible." Sarala snorted, sitting down as well. "Maybe if you drank more throughout classes, you wouldn't be so thirsty." "I don't like to feel water jumping around my stomach, thanks," Zin retorted. Khurshid nudged Hyaktu playfully. The two stood near the door, as if they wouldn't let the kids leave without stretching first.
"Looks like they take after you there."
Hyaktu scowled. "I drink water when I train." Khurshid chuckled.
"Sure you do. A drip doesn't count as a drink, you know."
Hyaktu rolled his eyes, then answered Zin. "Stretching allows the muscles to relax, so your body isn't so sore after a hard workout. Not to mention it builds your flexibility. In fact, want to see something cool? Come here, Zin." Zin got to their feet after a small hesitation. Sarala and Ren exchanged a glance, relieved that neither of them had been chosen. Whenever Hyaktu asked the students if they wanted to see something cool, he would show off a technique with rapid speed and harsh power. Sarala had been jabbed in the throat with a crane beak strike, while Ren had been choked out with Hyaktu's knees. "Kick me," Hyaktu ordered Zin. Zin threw a snap kick at Hyaktu's chest, attempting to hit him with the ball of their foot. Hyaktu remained calm the entire time. He simply caught Zin's leg in the air before they could pull their leg back in a tight crane. In one smooth action, Hyaktu tugged Zin's leg towards him to extend their leg, then shoved their leg back at them. Ren gasped as Zin was thrown to the ground, their foot somehow coming out of their shoe in the process and the air knocked out of them. They sat for a moment in dazed confusion. Hyaktu stood above them, beaming. Zin shot a glare at their father, then snorted in laughter. Ren lowered her hands from her mouth as she realized that Zin was okay. "That's how you throw people to the ground," Hyaktu said in a light-hearted tone, holding his hand out to help Zin to their feet. "And that's why you'll want to make sure you're stretching, so your legs are strong and swift and flexible, instead of being sore and getting caught." Zin ignored their father's hand as they shifted back into the butterfly pose. "That's not allowed in kickboxing, is it?" Hyaktu shook his head. "Leg catches are most definitely not allowed in our type of sparring. But that doesn't mean we can't practice them. You never know when you might need to use it after all." Sarala frowned. "Mr. Saihan?" "Yes, Sarala?" "When would we use this technique?" she inquired, her voice coming out harsher than she had intended. "When would we use a majority of the stuff you're teaching us?" Hyaktu frowned at her, playing with one strand of his mustache. Before he could reply, she continued. "I mean, you're supposed to teach us how to fight spirits, not humans, right? Isn't Kaokat a cat? How is any of this stuff supposed to work on something like that?" she asked skeptically. Hyaktu was quiet for a moment, then said, "I don't know much when it comes to fighting spirits. Each spirit has different abilities. It will depend on the spirit and your knowledge of said spirit. I can't teach you how to fight spirits, nor do I want you to try. But that doesn't mean I won't pass on my martial arts knowledge to each of you," he said firmly. "Just because I don't want you to initiate an attack on a spirit, doesn't mean they won't attack you. You need to be ready whether it's a spirit or a human that comes for you. Besides, some spirits are human-like or have human forms. Kaokat is not one of them, unfortunately." He sighed. "I have to teach you something with them around. Martial arts is what I know, and it can still be effective against spirits. Not to mention, it trains your balance, speed, reaction time, power. So that's what I'll teach you." "How about teaching us magic?" Zin asked eagerly. "We can fight spirits with magic, can't we? At least, we'd probably be able to do something more with magic than martial arts." "You still don't have your magic, Zin," Hyaktu pointed out. I chose to teach you 3 martial arts this past month because you lack magic. But why can't me and Ren learn magic? Sorella queried brusquely. I love learning martial arts, don't get me wrong. But if you're trying to prepare us for facing Kaokat one day, we ought to learn more magic and strategies specific to fighting them. It wouldn't be fair to Zin to teach you magic and not them. Plus, I don't want you fighting Kaokat if it can be avoided. My knowledge of Kaokat is likely inaccurate now, too. They aren't the same spirit I remember. His eyes glazed over as he murmured, Most of my memories of them, they were my friend, not my enemy. And the fight we had, I can't seem to remember much of. Why don't you remember? Ren asked curiously. Were you injured? Sorella questioned. Did you suffer a blow to the head? Hyaktu reached a hand up to the back edge of his head and frowned. Probably. Do you remember anything from the fight with them? Sorella pressed, leaning forward as she shifted into a snake stretch, the twins swiftly following her lead. What sort of strategies did they use? What was their main attack? How did you defend against them?
Enough questions,
Khurshid said briskly before Hyaktu could reply.
Your father can't remember.
Sorella snorted. He's not my father, she uttered under her breath, just loud enough for Ren to hear beside her. Khurshid is right, Hyaktu murmured, his tone disappointed. I cannot remember any details. I'm sorry. I'm going to get dinner started. You kids finish stretching before you come to the eating hall. Hyaktu then turned on the balls of his feet and left the room, Khurshid following. Cool wind swept over the teens, feeling nice on Sorella's sweaty skin. However, it barely lasted as hot air streamed inside. Sighing, she arched her back. Do you think he's lying? Sorella grumbled to Ren. Why would he lie? Ren asked in surprise. Because he's got some big secret past with this crazy cat spirit that came out of nowhere, Sorella stated dryly. He did keep Jabali hidden from us our whole lives, Zin put in. Without any reason, really. Why didn't he just tell us that Jabali was his best friend he grew up with? He didn't have to say anything about Kaokat with that. And look, he didn't tell us about Kaokat until recently. So he keeps secrets. Keeping secrets isn't the same as lying, Ren protested. We asked Dad directly about Kaokat and he told us. He wasn't ready to tell us about Kaokat before, and there wasn't a need to anyway. Not until they attacked, that is. Remember, Dad thought they were dead. But how does a spirit die? Sorella asked. I don't know, Zin replied. Maybe we'll learn in Magic Studies this year. Sorella rolled her eyes. I still think your dad is hiding something. I don't think so, Ren said earnestly. You just don't know him like we do, Sorella. Sorella clenched her jaw, getting out of the stretch as she stood up. But you're a liar, and most people probably wouldn't assume that about you, she huffed impatiently. Maybe it runs in the family. Ren blushed and stood up as well. That's not true, and I only lied to protect Zin. I didn't want to, not really. Zin hopped to their feet. But Ren, he also lied about where he came from. He said he got you from an orphanage, but for all we know, you... Ren glared at Zin so intensely that they stopped speaking immediately. Sorella frowned, wondering if she had spoken telepathically to her twin. What happened? Sorella grumbled. Where did your dad get you? He found me, Ren said shortly. I didn't come from an orphanage. So your real family could be looking for you now? Sorella queried. Your father could have kidnapped you? No, Ren growled sharply. Dad wouldn't have done that. Just... Look, Sorella, my real family is Dad and Zin, and that's all there is to it. Sorella narrowed her eyes. I'm sure Dad's not hiding anything, Zin cut in, their voice higher than usual. Sorella snorted. Whatever. I'm just glad I don't have a lying, secretive parent. She turned on her heel and stormed out of the Kung Fu studio, groaning as she entered the hot summer air. The twins hurried after her, their footsteps padding lightly against the cobblestone ground of the courtyard. Dad's not a liar, Ren snapped. And he wouldn't keep secrets, not unless he had to. Keep telling yourself that, Sorella grunted. I'm not convinced. But why would he keep secrets or lie about Kaokat's fighting style? Zin asked. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, he'd tell us everything he knew about them if he could, Ren added. He's been really worried about us ever since Kaokat showed up. Sorella sighed, slowing her stomping pace. I suppose you've got a point there. He wouldn't withhold information if it hurt you. He loves you too much. The image of a woman dressed in red flashed through Sorella's mind, and she gritted her teeth. Shaking her head, she stopped in her tracks. Sorella? Ren mumbled in concern, all traces of irritation gone from her medium voice. Are you okay? I'm not hungry, Sorella uttered. I'm going back to the tower. She turned away from the twins without another word, trying to shove Mimita out of her mind. Ren tried to chase after her, while Zin held her back and told her to give Sorella time alone. By the time Sorella made it to the Tai Chi studio, the siblings had reached the eating hall. She opened the door and entered the cool space, the ceiling lights turning on at once. Contrary to what she'd said, Sorella sat on the orange mat and leaned her head against the wall near the door. Get out of my head and out of my life, Sorella growled. You always lied to me, kept secrets from me. And now, Mr. Saihan is doing that same thing, said a small voice in her head. No, she argued with herself. He's not. He can't be. He's a better father. He loves his kids, which is more than you ever gave to me. Which is all I want, said the meek voice. I just want to be loved, to have a family. Sorella shook her head roughly. Whether he's keeping secrets or not, whether he's the same person or not, Mr. Saihan is not my father and never will be. My place is not here. My place is nowhere.